What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I'm going to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening to the market so far and some new developments on the charts. I'm also going to be breaking down some news that was very, very important and how this could once again affect the markets. But before I break anything down all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. So anyways, let's break down what's happening to Tesla and the markets. First off, let's talk about what happened with the economic data. Tesla ended up being weaker than expected because of some bad news that came out, not to mention Nvda, but the market managed to hold up after this economic data came out. So the initial jobless claims was a bit lower than expected, and continuing jobless claims was as expected. This didn't really affect the market that much as the market held up, but as time went on, we started to see some more data that was quite good. The Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report was above what the forecast was, and everything else was as expected. The current conditions, final projections were actually quite decent. So the market liked the data, and the market managed to hold up as time went on. But the thing that's worth noting is that, first off, because of Nvidia, I was very, very apprehensive going into the markets for today. And you could see that Tesla ended up selling off, and some stocks did sell off. Nvidia also had a red day, but other tickers managed to outperform, such as the QQQ, SPY managed to hold up. So did Microsoft. Some tickers were flat, others were green. Most were green, but a couple of them were red. Now I was unavailable to give you guys any updates about this because I was very busy yesterday, pretty much all night, just driving to different airports. And I was doing a lot of things which involved family, just lots of family matters for the last couple of hours. And then I was very busy, but basically I'm back now and things are going to go back to normal from here on out. I'll be uploading one video for tomorrow for Thanksgiving, and then everything will just be back to normal. So I was unavailable to give you guys a warning about this data, but now I'm back and we're going to be talking about more things going forward. For Friday, we have the PMI reports coming out. This could cause some volatility 15 minutes after open. And then there's nothing else going on for Thursday as the market's going to be closed for Thanksgiving. Now, going forward, I just want to mention that the fear and greed index is right now on like the more greedy side. We're on greed right now, and it may continue to hold greed at least for the time being. We're just waiting for this to load. I think I had to reload my page. We're getting close to extremes on other indicators, though, like market momentum is becoming extremely greedy. Others out there are quite neutral, and then the put and call option positioning is more on extreme greed mode, which is something that's a bit, I would say, a red flag for the rally. So you just want to be careful as these indicators hit those extremes. Now, for SPY on Friday, we have almost 1 million puts expiring with about 350,000 calls expiring. If those market makers want to cause another squeeze, they could do it for another trading day going into tomorrow. Not tomorrow, sorry, for Friday. We'll see if that ends up being the case. But once again, guys, there are some red flags in this rally I want to show you. And I still think there's going to be a risk of downside coming soon before another December rally. So when it comes to Tesla, Tesla was underperforming because of Nvidia. We saw Nvidia basically sell off. And as Nvidia sold off amidst all the news that came out, we also ended up seeing Tesla following a very similar trend. To add on to that, I just want to mention that there was more bad news that came out. Basically, there's a new lawsuit that was going on. It was blaming Tesla's autopilot for something really bad that happened. And we're going to be watching to see what a jury ends up ruling because they're going to decide whether Tesla and Elon Musk oversold the capabilities of the autopilot system, leading to this crash, or was it something else? So we'll be watching that very carefully. This is some negative news. The bigger piece of negative news was this right here. Tesla's once again discounting new vehicles by $3,000 for an end of the quarter push. Tesla's trying to get more sales to end this quarter. They're trying to start they're trying to end, the year very, very strongly. And we're going to be watching to see if Tesla can end up getting some strong numbers. In order for them to do so, they're continuing to cut prices, which is leading to some concerns about Tesla's overall positioning. They're leading to some concerns about Tesla's positions right now, their inventories, not to mention demand for Teslas. So as just starting to discount the new inventory of the Model Ys and the 3s, this is once again concerning for margins, and investors are not too happy about this. This has led to a slight sell-off, but we'll be watching to see if this continues. Now for next week, don't forget that we're approaching something very, very important. We have the Cybertruck event coming very soon. We'll be watching that to see if that leads to any volatility. Tesla had low volume, only about 118 million in total, nothing too crazy. And to add on to that, the short volume is still kind of like uptrending a bit. We saw about 58% short volume as Tesla's looking a bit weaker. And finally, if you look at Tradeitics, this is basically showing us that as far as Tesla goes, Jeffries is saying you should just hold on to your Tesla shares. We have a new rating from them. HSBC is reducing their price target on Tesla. So they actually announced that earlier, but Jeffries is the only new major analyst that has said to hold on to Tesla. The price price ratio is dropping just a little bit. We're seeing some strength being reduced as Tesla ended up dropping thanks to Nvidia and these different factors. And when it comes to seasonality, Fridays tend to not be the strongest of days. We're only green about 48% of the time. For hourly seasonality, during the second hour and also during like the 2 p.m. period, we tend to see more volatility. And that's pretty much it for now. Now, I just wanted to add on to this and just mention that when it comes to the way Tesla is trading, you want to be watching to see how this continues from here because Tesla has a potential flag that's forming. If this ends up forming, in order for us to turn bearish, you want to see this thing basically break from this flag. So if it continues to maintain this, the bearish case would be this like basically breaks this flag here, and then we just like start breaking down one more time before the Cybertruck deliveries event. And then we could just start uptrending by like next week and just start pushing back up to fill this imbalance. But if anything, Tesla should uptrend just a little bit going into Friday as long as there's no bad news. It's going to try to fill this imbalance up here and try to make its way back up to 242. However, in order for that to happen, we need to see this thing continue to hold above this white trend line. Let me change the color so it's easy to color code this. I'm going to make this blue. Actually, not blue. Let's make this maybe like green instead so it's very easy to see. This green trend line needs to be held by Tesla. We need to hold this and continue to go up in order for us to just push straight up to about 240. So it's going to make an attempt to rebound, but watch to see if it rejects or not. If we get a rejection, then we're going to see Tesla actually form a flag and start coming back down. And if we fail to do so, we could see this thing just try to push up higher. What I find more probable would be what I just showed you earlier. We basically attempt to go higher, and I think that Tesla might end up failing. I think that it may get some temporary downside before more upside going into like next week. So I think it might just chop around this range for some time before we start pushing up higher thanks to the Cybertruck event. But that's what I'm seeing for Tesla. So watch this flag. Let's see if this turns into like a bear flag and we just see like the bear step in, or if we see something that's completely the opposite. So you want to be watching that very, very carefully. With that being said, I also want to note that this is just like a short-term projection, right? For the short term, Tesla could go up or down, but for like the more longer term, I would say that Tesla still looks bullish overall. When you zoom out of the chart, if you look at the 4 hour or even like the daily chart, if I zoom out all the way back here, okay? I know this is a little hard to see for some people, but it's okay because you could see my point here. We have a nice inverse head and shoulders on the chart. It's still uptrending. It could pull back a little bit more. It could trade sideways for a week. But eventually, as we hit December, I see Tesla pushing into the 250s, getting very, very close to 268 plus in these higher levels. I could realistically see that happen over the next couple of weeks. All right, so I just want to be clear. We look weak right now. We might just trade sideways in this range. Make sure you watch key supports at the daily 200 EMA. If we lose 230, we're going to be likely see this thing come back down towards 225 because this is where our 200 EMA happens to be. And thus far, Tesla keeps closing above this. So the daily 200 EMA is a key support. Make sure you watch that very carefully and we'll see how it goes from there. To add on to that, I just want to mention that with this flag forming, you just want to be very patient and see how it pans out. So don't just start shorting for no reason. You want to be watching to see this support right over here break for this thing to get a break to the downside. And don't go long for no reason either. You want to be watching to see if we get a bounce or not. So the lesson is watch the charts tell you what's going to happen and don't assume something's going to happen for no reason. All right. And the same thing applies for SPY. I wanted to update my chart to make this very simple. So when you look at the 4 hour time frame, we have a rising wedge on SPY developing, which suggests that there might be a move to the downside coming soon. However, is there a sign of this thing breaking down? The answer is not yet. There's no confirmation. We haven't broken below our trend line. We haven't broken below 452 yet. There's no sign of SPY breaking down yet. And we shouldn't make the assumption from this point on. I want to call out that the daily chart is forming a doji, which could suggest a reversal is coming as soon as Friday, but don't believe it's going to happen for no reason. You want to be watching it See if you get the rejection first before you turn into like a real bear. So that's what's going to be very important. Now, part of why I am saying there's a risk of downside is because we still have this triple bearish divergence that continues to develop on SPY on the 4-hour time frame. If the bearish divergence is developing, it makes no sense for us to just like assume it's not going to play out or is going to play out. So watch and see. This could push higher towards the highs we saw right here. I have this like rectangle that's red up top. This is basically where our high was, very close to that, like, 458 zone. Very close to that is where we went to back in July before we ended up rejecting. So we could be forming a double top like formation where we kind of like hit this top right here and came back down. I would like to see something like that. That would be very healthy if we form like a double top and we come back down. But just to be safe, let's see how this thing reacts. It could have a little bit more upside left. So we're going to be watching this as time goes on. On SPY, we're basically approaching, getting very, very close to this high right here. So we're going to be watching these highs up here. Do we end up touching the high, then rejecting, or are we going to just continue to hold up? I think the odds favor some kind of rejection looking at our technical indicators, but we're not rejecting yet. So we'll have to see confirmation first before we turn bearish. Same thing on the QQQ. The QQQ is looking like it's been pushing for upside. We have a long wick that developed here, especially on the 4-hour time frame. And if you look at the QQQ, if you look at the 4-hour, we basically have this triple, basically a quadruple bearish divergence on the RSI developing. Same thing on Aapl. So I'm going to be very careful when it comes to trading this. And I want to be watching to see if this thing breaks down or not. So on the QQQ, I just want to call out, not on the daily, but I like to go on the 4-hour time frame and showing you this. We also happen to have a nice rising wedge, basically. So we have a rising wedge on the QQQ. This suggests that there could be some downside coming in the future. But for me to turn bearish, we want to be watching for 383. If that ends up breaking, I would turn more bearish. But as of right now, it's holding up. So I'm not going to just, if this thing is like pushing up higher, I'm not just going to short for no reason. I need to see this thing break first. I need to see confirmation of the move. That's the most simple way to be trading and to be looking at the charts. And if this thing bounces again, starts pushing, and manages to break above like 391, it still looks bullish. You could also scalp to the upside just for the time being, but wait and see. Now, there is one thing that concerns me for the bulls, and that is the fact that we have this long wick right here on the QQQ. That could be evidence of the fact that they're starting to grab liquidity. So these hedge funds, right, these traders, institutions, market makers, they're grabbing liquidity up here and they're getting ready for a move to the downside. There's a possibility of that because of this wick. But in order for us to see the downside, right, we need confirmation first. So don't just make any assumptions. I just wanted to call that out. Two more tickers before I end the video, as we're getting very close to the weekend. For Nvda, this thing has been downtrending a bit. I'm going to pull up the hourly chart just to show you something. So on Nvidia, first off, I just want to call out that the daily chart's not looking the strongest. It's looking like it's barely holding up the 4-hour 50 EMA, but there is another support. I think it was the hourly 200 EMA. Let me just double check that. So yeah, watch the hourly 200 EMA on Nvidia. It's barely holding this 482 area. Now we look bearish on the hourly, we look bearish on the 4-hour, as we had this triple bearish divergence on Nvidia that ended up panning out. So we were anticipating some downside. That's what happened to the stock. So to turn more bearish, you need to see it close below 482. If that's the case, we could be making our way down to 470. And the reason I'm calling out 470 is because on the daily chart, we have our 200 EMA very close to that low, not the 200, sorry, the 20 EMA right there. So it could be some more downside coming. The daily is starting to turn a bit more bearish on Nvidia. We haven't gotten an official bearish cross in the PPO yet, but it looks like it might drop a bit more. And this could still have an effect on Tesla and other tickers like that. So for Nvidia, I also want to call out that on the hourly, we look like we have a falling wedge. If we get a break to the upside in the future, that signals that we might see a bounce by like December. But as of right now, we're not ready to bounce. We haven't broken out yet. And this thing is respecting a downtrend, right? If you look at the overall structure of this. So we're going to be watching that key support right over here at 485. We have some support there, but 482 is going to be even more important. If that fails us, watch 480, and then the lower levels below that, there is still a risk to the downside. So you want to be very careful when playing NVIDIA. Last but not least, for Apple stock, I want to call out something very important. Looking at Apple, when you look at Apple on the daily time frame, we could be forming signals of this thing to reverse soon, because just like the QQQ, we have this long wick. We have a potential rejection candlestick that's forming right over here. We got this rejection off this wick. Could we start churning from here? It's a possibility, but not a guarantee. We just have to wait and see. I wanted to call out that on the 4-hour time frame, Apple has a quadruple bearish divergence that's still developing. And this suggests that even if it goes a bit higher, it could hit like 193, 195, we could still be anticipating some kind of rejection because the signal is still valid, right? Apple broke out during the pre-market, came back tested this yellow trend line, and ended up rejecting. It's still on an uptrend technically. It's still making higher highs and higher lows. So we're not officially breaking down yet. So wait and see if this thing loses 190, then 188. If we lose both of those supports, I would turn more bearish. As of right now, it has not happened. So I would like to see the market pull back a bit before we get the December squeeze. And I think that that's what's going to happen. But once again, guys, the market could push a little bit higher. It could continue to push higher. But as long as the bearish divergences remain, there's going to be a risk to the downside. And as long as the market hasn't like broken those July highs on like SPY, for example, we can't turn way too bullish just yet. We can't turn like way too bullish or way too bearish. We're just going to be watching the chart for the time being. All right. So could we push up a little bit more? Yes, we can, but there's going to be a risk of a rejection, a very healthy pullback. We're due for that. And I would really like to see that in a very healthy fashion. All right, guys. So that's pretty much it for this video. I just want to thank every single one of you out there so much for your support and etc. Please remember the stock market is going to be closed tomorrow. No trading for Thursday, and I'll be back. I'll be back tomorrow with a quick video, and then I'll be talking more about the markets on Friday. So that being said, I'll see you guys very soon. Don't forget that 200 EMA on the daily chart on Tesla at $230. That is critical support. Let's see if Tesla can hold this for the time being and watch the flag that's forming on Tesla. I'll be back very soon, guys, to talk more about the charts. Once again, thank you so much for all of your attention. Hope you guys have a very, very good weekend. It's going to be very fun to be watching football or doing anything. And make sure you stay safe during Black Friday shopping if you do end up going out. Anyways, that's it. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you, and peace out.